Hello, everyone. Good day to where you are. And today we are having a very special guest because she's doing a lot of things and she wears many hats. So me introduce her first. Liza Florida is the founder and primary host of the 8 Billion Project, a creative initiative that uses the podcast platform to reach out to people around the world and from all walks of life, with a mission to share their stories and highlight their purpose. Career wise, she manages a real estate business among the many hats that she wears. So thank you once again for being here, Lisa.
Oh, Angelo, thank you so much for the kind introduction. That was very nice.
Well, yeah, I did a little bit of like research on what you did. So on what you're currently also doing. So the 8 Billion Project is a very promising initiative. Can you tell me more about how you started it, what idea came to you, and how it's going so far?
Actually, to be honest, thank you for allowing me to share the story of 8 Billion Podcast. My work actually started with live streaming on an application called Kumu live stream in the Philippines. So, if many of you guys are going to be viewing this in the Philippines, you'll probably know that sounds familiar. My initial what do you call this? My initial reason for actually going on live stream was to highlight any or spotlight any individuals, causes, or organizations doing things. Everyone is like worthy of the spotlight, but just different things in their community. And from there, I just became so comfortable with live streaming and interviewing people. Other people had said, why don't you expand this into a podcast? Because not, as you know, in live streaming, you will live stream at that time, and whoever is able to jump on at that time are the only people that can watch.
Right.
So I took that and I created a vision behind it, and I said, you know what, a lot of the message that I share with everyone doesn't only, it's not even just to the people of the Philippines, even though that's where my passion started. It could be these stories of inspiration could help anyone across the world. So
Right.
from that point in October 2020 was born the 8 Billion Project. So that's what I've done. And so far, I think I have like 17 interviews underneath my belt. So I'm really proud of that project. But of course, it wouldn't be anything without audiences,
Right.
such as yourself and everyone else that helps contribute to it.
That's a very great initiative, and it started last year, right?
Yes, it did. So it's interesting though, Angelo, because
Yeah.
I never even thought like, I knew that I wanted to be of service to people. And I think that that might have been an underlying thing that a lot of people had, the pandemic had made a lot of people reevaluate their lives to do more
Right.
meaningful things. And of course, this was a passion project. I never knew it would be in the form of starting a live stream and then going into podcasts.
Mhm.
So I think it was such a blessing to kind of come down this road, and then for a lot of people to believe in the message that I put out, and then support me up until this point.
Right. Because last year, because of, I think it's also because of the pandemic that we have started to realize, and yet what you said earlier, to reevaluate our purpose, our mission. And because of that, conversations started to emerge, such as like our purpose in life, what we do. And it's more of like the little things that matter. And I believe that 8 Billion Projects has amplified that those stories from people, from individuals from around the world. So my next
Yeah.
question, Lisa, is among the current episodes, 16 to 17 episodes that the podcast has produced so far, which of these conversations have been the most memorable for you?
Well, actually, that's a great question, Angela, because that's a question that I even asked some of the guests that I interview, right? But it's true. When you sit down there, you can't say that there's one that was special. There are messages that stand out, but all 17 of them bring something great to the table. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. Mr. Kevin Call, who I believe might be my episode 3, I met him actually at a book signing, and he used to be a former Skid Row resident. Now, if you're familiar with the Los Angeles area, it's definitely a place where there's a lot of homeless people, less fortunate in that area. He came from there, was actually an inmate, went to jail, And then from there, he turned his life around. Now he actually serves the community in his full-time work. He's a motivational speaker, and he's brought so many organizations together.
Right.
From there, I've met Michael Lopez, who was episode 7 of the 8 Billion podcast. He's another person that was an ex-gang member back in the day. He used to do all the things he said, like, he used to do drugs. He used to, just do a lot of things that, just were not being of a great citizen. Then, he ended up going to jail, and he turned his life around. Now he was saying, he was very smart at what he was doing. He was like, oh, I'm now using my skills and talents from when I used to take and steal from people, and now using it to not necessarily take and steal. He's using his mind now and how creative he is to fundraise for the homeless. So those are a few people. Then I've had people that are TEDx speakers. I've had 2 ladies that have been TEDx speakers. I've had a handful of so many best-selling authors. Right. So I would say, if it's not specifically one individual that probably stands out, I would say just the message that stands out amongst all of them. And the message that stands out amongst all of them is this, is if you find that, you're at a precipice or the cusp of doing something, and you have a passion to do something, and it also serves others, the rewards are so much bigger than you can even imagine. Because when you give of yourself in any capacity, so whether it's volunteering your time, whether it's saying a prayer, whether it's giving money, it's a lot of people don't realize that exponentially that grows and it comes back. Right. So that seems to be the underlying thing of all of the 17 people that I've interviewed so far, is their ability to be able to serve others that serves a greater purpose. So I think that there is this planetary consciousness that's rising, and they're all contributing to this. So then, like I said, we could be a lot more compassionate human beings.
I do believe in what you said earlier about people who were able to live through their past circumstances and survive and overcome their challenges. And I think that if there's one like if life had a lesson plan, I think that's one thing that we must all adhere. Like it's not about where we were born, where we come from. It's about what we do with what we have experienced. And yeah. I believe that that's one of the most important messages that 8 Billion Project is currently delivering to the world. Making people speak about their experiences in overcoming their problems, and at the same time, once they have overcome it, they have this platform, they have this initiative to help other people who are also struggling with the same problems that they did. And that's a very inspiring message that the 8 Billion Project is currently highlighting. So thank you for that, Liza.
No, thank you, Angelo, for actually allowing me this platform to share what the podcast is about. In most cases, I'm on your side and I'm interviewing. So it's nice to be able to share the story of 8 Billion so you guys understand from a perspective of the host what my mission is. And to be honest with you, Angelo, for me, the greater vision of the 8 Billion podcast is to really have it as a legacy project. Right. Mm-hmm. So as time goes by and podcast goes, what I do hope that it does is inspire others to share other people's stories or their own story, because it is, the mission of the producers that I do have too is to bring about, what did they say? They wanted to support 10 they can bring, I think, about 10 million people out of isolation, because that a lot, oftentimes that's what happens. Sometimes to live from our most authentic selves, and by my sharing your story and you sharing your story, it allows us all this platform that we all have in front of us, no matter where we are in this world, to be able to share your story. Yeah.
And that's amazing, because currently the 8 Billion Project is um, in podcast platform. So do you have like, are you considering other prospects for the project to branch out to other media platforms such as books, documentaries? Maybe someday you might compile the stories that you have shared, or like you have gathered from your guests, and put them in another
No,
platform.
no, I would love that. In fact, that's sometimes having these conversations with other people give me ideas. But I do have to say, one of my interviews, or good friend, his name is Rodem Musawa, who is a
Oh,
filmmaker in the Philippines. I told him when he visited back during the holidays, I said, "Hey, Rodem, you're going to do a documentary, and we're going to tell stories." And that's the amazing thing, is like, you never know who you're going to meet on this journey. And there's such amazing individuals, right? Amazing individuals like yourself, Angelo, who are actually stepping out and doing something great. Like, these interviews are going to matter, because as time goes by, you're going to have so many interviews underneath your belt and so many things to reference to, and it's all these stories of inspiration. But I would definitely love to, that's another thing too, is I have a big network of authors that I have as friends, so
mhm.
it could eventually branch out there. It's not in the exact plans right now, but it definitely seems like it's making its way there.
That's amazing, and I'm looking forward to the future projects when once that comes into like a fruition, and when it comes into completion. So you mentioned earlier, Lisa, that you originally started 8 billion project from another like app that you have also began last year. It was like a live streaming app, and you had this idea of um, representing stories from the Philippines. And
Mhm.
growing up as a Philippine American in the States, what were the experiences that you had that changed your life and your view of it?
So my parents were immigrants, both from the Philippines. So I am first generation here. And I know that some people might say that I am second generation, but I think, the true definition is I would be first generation Filipino American here. Now, was the question is, what were my experiences, or did I experience challenges?
More likely,
Well,
both challenges and advantages that the Philippine
okay.
community experiences in the U.S. and you have personally experienced as well.
Yeah. So for the most part, though, Angelo, my experiences growing up as a Filipino American has been amazing. I was raised by two amazing, wonderful parents. My mother has passed away in 2018, so she's a big part of the inspiration of why I do these things. What was great for us is, even though, like, our parents raised us and they were immigrants, it's that close knit family tie that you have, and that's very similar to, like, I mean, it comes from the Philippines. It's almost very tribal and instinctual that you take care of each other.
Mhm.
So all of us first generation American Filipinos, it's really amazing to, like, kind of just tell stories about our parents, whether they're still living or not, and to just remember that it's even though we grew up here in the United States, being raised by Filipino parents underneath that roof, we all kind of, as Filipino Americans, we
Yeah.
understand each other in ways that, sometimes it's kind of interesting, because our parents brought the culture over to the United States. Now, they had to assimilate to some degree because of, society. But when you talk to other Filipino Americans and they grew up with both Filipino immigrant parents, it's interesting how there's so many things in common. And
Mhm.
as much as we might have seen that as, like, it when we're growing up, sometimes you'll just think, oh, like, my parents are not cool or anything like that. You'll learn to understand as you get older, it's something you have to embrace, because as our parents are starting to get older and in some cases pass away, we are almost pretty much American. So it's up to my generation, first generation Filipino Americans, to keep our Filipino culture alive.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah,
And in
that's what I.
America, Lisa, there are like also differences between the among the people who live in different states, right? Like in New
Yes.
York, they have different rates. Although I'm not stereotyping or anything, but I think that there are differences between an American who, like, regardless of race, an American who lives in New York, and then also an American who lives in California, or like, let's say, Louisiana, for example. So are there also distinct differences between the Filipino American communities that are living in different states?
Yeah, interestingly enough, there are. Like us
Sure.
Californians are different. Even in just the state of California, Northern Californians are different from Southern Californians. And then you couple it into the mix that we're Filipino, or you could be Mexican, or you could be African American. So it's interesting how it does, they say Southern California is like a melting pot. Other people reference it to like salad bowl, but we're all like trying to merge our different cultures from where we are, whether we're immigrants or not, whether we're Italian or Filipino or Chinese.
Right.
So it really is. It's interesting how that works. It's just like, and I don't know, is that very similar, Angelo? Like in the Philippines, like if you grew
Definitely.
up, let's see, like in northern, yeah, you could, and then you go to Manila, you could tell.
Yeah, it's also the same in the Philippines. Although we're not separated in states, we're separated in regions. So it's this,
Yes, like province.
yeah, provinces and yeah, those kinds of places. So the Filipino that you see in Cebu, although has a different language, also tends to have a different, like, worldview. I'm from Cagayan de Oro City. It's north in Mindanao, and we tend to speak soft-spoken Binisaya, which is my mother tongue. So whenever we encounter someone who speaks Binisaya, the same language in Cebu, and that person speaks a different accent, so we tend to feel a bit offended, because whenever they speak, they speak harshly, but it's not meant to be harsh in a way. So it's the accent matters also at the same time.
Yeah.
And then there are people in the north, in Manila, who are very I'm not stereotyping once again, but from what I've experienced in my visits in Manila, they are quite liberated and open-minded to progressive ideas. And people also in other regions are, like, more conservative. And yeah, what you said earlier, I think the most common characteristic that Filipinos have, despite the differences in culture and tradition, I think would be the value of family, close family ties. And I think it's the same there in the States. So that's amazing. At least we have common ground when it comes to that.
Yes, yeah, it's very true. So I guess it would be safe to say that it kind of happens in every country
Yeah.
across the world. Yeah, it is. I mean, even down to, I mean, we referenced our areas down to cities in here.
Mhm.
And even us growing up, like even just in the different pockets of Southern California, us even being Filipino American, there was a Filipino American that grew up in that city and they have character traits. Because, yeah, it's weird how for some reason a city has even just that influence over how you grew up.
Right, right.
So yeah,
It's
it's been
interesting.
really,
Maybe
yeah.
someday you can invite other, like, Filipino Americans to speak about it in 8 billion project, and then we'll
Oh, I would love that.
how it
Yeah,
goes.
I would love that. Yeah. I mean, if this works out, then maybe I might have you as a guest. I actually end season one this week.
Wow.
However, I'm taking about a 1 month break to record season two. And so I'm even looking forward to take whatever I learned in season one and all of the people that I've met and just launch an amazing season two.
That's nice. And that's a very big accomplishment on your part, because 17 episodes, that's really a lot. And you've interviewed different people who come from different backgrounds and share their ideas about the world. And I'm looking forward to more episodes and seasons for the 8 Billion Project. And lastly, Lisa, what is your advice to storytellers who pursue the same mission? What you do is amazing. So there are other people out there who also want to do the same thing. So what is your advice for them when it comes to, like, starting out to maintain their passion and stuff like that?
Yes, for all you. And what's interesting though, Angelo, is I never even knew that it was maybe like I was going to be a storyteller. The vision kind of just molded in itself, because what I started out on Kumu was I was just interviewing. Then it just became so clear to me the next questions that I asked. And it seemed to be that I could resonate with the crowd, meaning to say the questions that I seemed to ask would have been the same questions that other people would have liked to ask.
Mhm.
or would have liked to know. So for any of you guys that are just storytellers, all it is like continue to always remember what your passion is. Like where every time you turn on that camera or every time you reach out. And like I said, Angelo, it's in either the podcasting world or like even, you know, even doing video blogs like this on YouTube. Yes, you are going to get people that say no, you are going to get people that say yes, but for the ones that say yes, you know, ask them, you know, for whatever reason. I mean, like I'm happy to extend, like, you know, some other introductions to you. So always just continue with that passion and that dream and continue to work for it. Always remember what your message is behind it,
Right.
because at the end it really truly shows. Like my podcast grew exponentially because it wasn't for me. It was the success of the show. I mean, for me, the success of the show was getting the message out there. And the reason that I called it 8 billion is because, in a technical sense, there are really 8 billion people by 2023.
Mhm.
And all of us carry a light within us. And now it just depends on your journey. What are those things that you do to pursue your passions and purpose in life, to give of something greater and more meaningful, so
Mhm.
that at the end of your, you know, at the end of your journey here, you can actually look back. Because when you think about it, in the end, Angela, you can't take your material wealth with you, right? All
Right.
you can do is look back at the relationships that you forged. Were
Mhm.
they fulfilling? You
Mhm.
know, did they, you know, were they meaningful to you?
Mhm.
So, like I said, success is always defined in so many other people, in so by so many different definitions, by so many different people. But for me, success is truly defined by the relationships I forge, by, you know, the connections I make with you. It's truly an honor to have you even reach out. I don't even know who I'm reaching out to sometimes, and it's amazing. That's why I agreed to do it. And like I said, if you have other people who where I could use the platform to spread the 8 billion message, I'm happy to do that. And I'm happy to share your story too.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for one of the people who really maintain their passion, because you lead by example. And with like even the progress that you've made with the 8 billion project is also very astounding and very impressive. And what you said earlier about you emerging as a storyteller, I do believe in that, because I believe that all people have their stories to tell. And that's what the
Mhm.
8 billion project is for. So if there are like 8 billion people who will if the world will have 8 billion people by 2023, I believe that many of that all of us will live to tell our stories, or like at least experience them in our own little ways. So thank you very much, Liza. And
Oh,
I
you're very
hope you the
welcome.
best for the 8 billion
Thank you,
project. And
Angelo. Yes, and we'll definitely stay in touch. I'd love to have you on 8 billion to share your
oh,
story.
thank you very much. Does this mean that I get invited too? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll send you again. I will connect after this. And I'd love for you to share your story, because you have a story behind why you do this. And I really honor the courage that you have to go out there and find guests all the time. I know that's not easy. You know what I mean? Coming from that same position myself.
Mhm.
And you just keep going because you know there are people that need to hear this message.
Right. Thank you. And you always have my support, Lisa. Thank you very much for being
Oh,
here.
thank you, Angelos. Salamat po.
Thank you. Thank you. Salamat po. And that's it, folks. So Liza Florida. And if you have any questions, you can state it on the comments below. I will be linking the official link of 8 Billion Project in the description below this video. So thank you, Lisa, and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, you too.